There we go. I'm going to hide myself temporarily.
So Kathy and Beverly, do you go by Beverly or Bev?
I go by Beverly, but I don't mind if people call me Bev.
Okay, Beverly, no, that's great. I'll try to remember that. Well,
No
good to
big
have you
deal.
too. We were hoping to make this, we're hoping to get a decent amount of folks, a number of folks, just so we could cover some questions that have been cropping up and stimulate conversation among people, but this is still fine. Maybe some others will join us. So we're going to do 1 and 2 the first half hour. And I just want to go over a couple of things very quickly where you guys should be focused on increasing your mileage and not worrying about your pace. That's program 1 and 2. That's been the tradition. You have no business whatsoever thinking about racing at this point. Don't let any of these 5Ks tease you. You shouldn't be thinking about what other people are doing or hearing what other people are doing with their pacing. You should be focusing on learning about the sport for you personally. And the most important takeaway by far is the pacing of that perception of effort. So you should be running effortless throughout your entire run, regardless of the hills, how tired you are, the environment. If it's a hot day, obviously some of these horrific weather days are mentally tough, but you really got to, if you can embrace that. We had our largest number, Leah, showed up yesterday. We had 9 people. So we had 3 groups of 3, but they're all getting it down pat. So you should be able to use your breathing as your poor man's heart rate monitor. So of course, if you're with another person, if you can't talk comfortably, you're going too fast. So try not to get hung up on numbers, just focus on getting your body comfortable with the increased distance. So our goal with 1 and 2 is to get you guys comfortably to 10 miles so you can run the whole way, so you don't have to walk any of it. There's no rules about stopping and walking. We don't mind that, but we're trying to teach you. It is a foot race, and we want you to be able to feel comfortable running the whole way. So that's the primary goal with you guys. Now, as we get into February and March, we are going to have these races once a month, and you'll be okay to do that by then, and they'll be built into the program. And just stay tuned with that. And so there'll be 4 miles in length, and then there'll be 1 5 miles in length, because I do want you to get the experience of putting a race number on. Obviously, it isn't the same this year as in the past, but one of the challenges we have in the past is that novices, if they don't race ahead of time, they get to the 10 miler and they get sucked out, and they go through the mile mark faster than they've ever gone all winter, and it unravels there. So we obviously aren't going to have that temptation this year.
So when you say races, are those going to be ones you set up, or are they like local?
They're all local, and they're through the track club, and they're specifically set up to build people to the 10 miler. And there'll be 2 options. You'll have obviously the virtual option, but then there'll be these reserved time slots, which we've been doing quite successfully, very safely. We had the women's 4 miler, the men's 4 miler. We had a half marathon and a marathon, and we're doing the New Year's race the same way. So, and there are all these not-for-profit events that Leah and I are help organize through the track club. So we're not sure what the 10 miler is going to look like yet. You know, this thing could go south really fast. It's already unraveling, but it's kind of a race between the vaccines getting into people's arms and the progression of this, the rapid spread of this around the country. And, it's like back and forth, and it's terrible percentages of people that are getting the vaccination into people's arms. I couldn't believe I heard this whole piece on NPR this morning about how we're really doing terrible. We were trying to get 20 million into people's arms by the end of 2020, and we've only had 4 million, I think, is what I heard. That's not a good. We're not getting on top of this. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. We can pivot on this pretty quickly. The main point right now is just to keep you guys moving and keep you motivated. And I know that's been difficult for some folks, but I think having your plan in place, and of course I keep telling you guys, if you want me to tweak your weekdays, you can. So I'm looking here, program 2, you guys should have done 2. Program 1 should have done 2 yesterday, and program 2 should have done 3. So are you guys in 1 or 2, Beverly and Kathy? 1?
So I've been jumping between the 2, but I think I've fallen back to 1 only because I haven't been getting in enough runs. So I need to not push myself.
Well, the beauty of the training program is that you can most of the time from higher numbers down to the lower numbers throughout the winter. Usually at the end of the winter, the most popular group is 2. Whereas at the beginning, 2 isn't any bigger than any of the others, but it's just so many things happen, sicknesses and family issues and all kinds of stuff. So, so the other thing I want to really impress upon you is that I've been trying to get people to understand this. And I got an interesting text from one of my marathoners, and she goes, she just read this article about the Africans and how they start their runs really slowly. And I thought, well, how am I not impressing this upon people? I talk about the Africans all the time. So I'm going to throughout all 3 of these. I'm going to reiterate that your run should look like a bell curve. And so the most critical 4 to 5 minutes of your run, forget about miles, 4 to 5 minutes is the first 4 to 5 minutes. And that should be at a pace much slower than your comfortable aerobic heart rate. That's kind of difficult for some people to practice because they already think their aerobic heart rate's slow. But if the Africans, their aerobic heart rate, they run at about 7-minute pace. They race at 4 minutes and 30 seconds for the marathon, if you can imagine. So they're so much slower for the aerobic heart rate. Well, their first 4 to 5 to 6 minutes to 10 minutes is 10-minute pace. Now, what are they doing there? They're naturally warming their body up, but more importantly, they're stretching. They're actually doing a form of dynamic stretching. So that reduces the risk of injury. So not only do they have a productive cardiovascular aerobic run, but they also reduce the risk of injury. The second slowest part of your run should be the last 3 to 5 minutes. And that should also be, it's like, a plane decelerating as it's landing. You should be slowing down as you head back to your car or to your home or place of work. And then the middle section for you guys, 1 and 2, should always be what you feel is your comfortable aerobic heart rate. So, oh, we got someone else, Mindy. Hi, Mindy. Oh, it's Leah. Out of towner. Wow, it's impressive. So anyway, those are the essences of distance running, and you guys are distance runners at this point. If you're going 2 miles or 3 miles, that's a distance runner. You don't think of it that way because of so many people around us in town are doing marathons and ultramarathons. You go, oh, I'm not a distance runner. Yes, you are. So, right. And Donna, good. So I thought in the, I don't have my, in the next 20 minutes, I thought maybe I would turn things over to you and have you ask, I thought two things. What's your biggest positive takeaway of 2020 as far as something in your life physically that was enhanced by the pandemic, not something negative. So something that you took away that was a change for you that came out of the pandemic. And then I'd like to hear what your ultimate goal is for this year with your exercise, with your running. And if you have a question that's been eaten at you and you haven't texted me about it, fire away. So why don't we start with, we'll go in alphabetical order. We have BCD. So Beverly, why don't we start with you? Just the biggest takeaway from 2020 physically, and then some goals, and if you have a question.
So yeah, a positive takeaway is pretty tough. I would say that it's my decision to start running. I used to run like literally like a decade ago, fairly regularly. And since then, I mean, it's been years since I run, and I'm very much out of shape, and more importantly, I weigh probably like 15 pounds more, which just is painful for running. So I'm basically starting at ground zero, and I normally play tennis, but I've had tendonitis in my elbow. So I've basically stopped doing that. And so that was my impetus for like, I have to be doing something. So I guess that was my positive, is that I decided to try and ease myself back into running. And I guess that's one of my goals, is obviously to go and run a 10 miler at some point, whenever that might happen. And so I would love to be able to do that again, because that used to be something I could do, and it feels pretty bad how far I've fallen out of that kind of range of things. And pace has been my biggest problem in that, because I think about how I used to run,
Yep,
and
you're the most dangerous kind of runner, Beverly. That
it makes me hurt. Yeah, I've just
Yes.
given up on looking at it at all, though.
You've summed up a chapter in the book, so to speak. And the more challenging runners I coach, and the ones that are more at risk to get injured and frustrated, are people that were formally exercising, people that have never. The couch potato thing is overrated compared to the person like yourself, who has stayed relatively active but has gained some weight, has spawned off into a different form of exercise, which is not as aerobic. Tennis isn't. I'm a tennis player, and I know all about it. It's a great sport, but it's not the same as running.
No.
So you have to just divorce yourself, Beverly, from the Beverly of the past. And you imagine Cynthia, who's in the other room, my wife, she won the Marine Corps Marathon twice. She could run a marathon at 6-minute pace, and here she is at 62. And the other day, she ran, one of her runs was under 9-minute pace for the whole run, and she was ecstatic. She goes, "Oh my gosh, and this is a person that ran a marathon, 6-minute pace." You have to be, it's the whole idea of shifting gears to where you're at currently. Now, that doesn't mean you're permanently set there, because as a coach, I'm always trying to get you to improve, but where you're currently at is, and 15 pounds, Beverly, it's not insurmountable, but I always tease people. I say, take a 15-pound sack of flour and throw it into your arms. Now try and run with that. Now I know it's distributed all over your body, but that's tough.
It's huge difference.
It's definitely a handicap. And I'm saying this in the most positive way. Leah knows I cheer on the overweight people more than I do sometimes at races and people I coach, than someone who is, at what they think is a perfect body weight. It's so much more work. That'll come down naturally. If you just watch your eating, watch your portions, watch your nibbling, the running will take it down bit by bit. The whole gig. The slower you lose it, the greater the chance it doesn't come back. So, if you could lose 2 pounds a month or 3 pounds a month, pound every other week, that's good progression.
I would love that.
Do you have any questions, Beverly? Anything that's been burning?
Not that I can think of right off the bat, no.
Okay. So we had Beverly, and then there was someone else on here with a C.
Me?
Kathy.
Yes.
Kathy, there, I missed I don't have you on the screen here. Okay, good. Got to get the.
So the positive takeaway of 2020 was that I did start running. I followed your Learn to Run program and made it up to an hour, and then ran the women's 4-miler, which I loved. I loved running it at Foxfield. Oh my gosh. And then I didn't really know what to do. I wasn't really on a program for a few months. And then I work at Blue Ridge School, and the boys had organized a race, and I was determined to do it because I hadn't the year before when I was very out of shape. And I ended up injured. I ran it without having trained much. And it took me about 3 weeks to recover. So I really learned a lesson there that I want to avoid that kind of thing in the future. And I've run the 10-miler twice a long time ago. And a lot of what you're saying is resonating with me, Beverly. I have no problem running slowly. I'm fine with that. I really am just, happy to take my time. And but I guess the most positive takeaway is that I'm really enjoying it, and it feels good to be a part of a community and to get some coaching. So thank you so much for offering this. And I don't really have any burning questions. I guess it's more about sort of logistics and fitting it into my my life. And I have several tracks where I can run, but I can see that getting higher up in mileage will be, I will not enjoy running around the track for more than 6 or 8 times. And the roads out where I live are curvy, and although I did scout out at one that might be a possibility, but just finding I'm a morning person, so I like getting up in the morning and getting it under my belt, but it's dark, and so anyway, just some logistical fitting it in,
Yeah,
kind of
that's
thing.
that's a big thing, Kathy. Actually, don't underestimate it. It's finding that balance to where it works good for your lifestyle, and that is one of the biggest challenges. So, and you are going to definitely drive yourself crazy on the track.
Yeah.
We start programs 1 and 2 on the track, and then the people have been meeting on Saturday with us over at Schultz High School. We've been having them run 2 laps on the track, and then they go off the track for half a mile, then they come back on the track, and that way they're slowly bridging themselves out of weaning themselves from the track, because the track is
I
great
like that.
start. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, if you had this is the toughest part of the program this year, is finding people, getting people together. Obviously, in normal times we would have had groups, but yeah. So I saw Heather had something about her pace there, and Heather, we went over this just a few seconds ago, that programs 1 and 2, I really want you guys to not worry about your pace and just do exactly what you said. You ran 3 miles, and that's fantastic. The goal is to get your mileage up without getting hurt. So Kathy, you starting back, you jumped into that race and you learned a lesson, which is fantastic. And that's, you're now in a very safe program. It's very difficult to get injured in this program. I don't want to sound cocky, but we've done this for so many years, and we've tweaked it. So it's really self-inflicted when people get hurt with it.
And another important discovery for me was finding those Fleet Feet videos on YouTube. Fleet Feet, I guess, is a running company, running gear company. But they have these wonderful videos, and they're 5 to 10 minutes of core and strength and stretching and foam roller. And so really being intentional about working on my core and strength was very important too.
We've gone over this, on a couple of times already, on how important it is that if you can do any cross training, that you work on your upper body. It's by far the most important. So just a 5 to 10 minute morning regimen, sit-ups, push-ups, hand weights, balancing, foam rolling, very important. So so let's see. So let's do Donna next. We're down to 9 minutes. So of course I'm doing a lot of the gabbing. So Donna, go ahead, fire away.
Well, the positive for me for 2020 was kind of listening to the CDC saying that, you need to exercise. And I've been running now for 2 years, and I've been tracking my running. I've done several 5K races. I've done 10K races. So I'm comfortable there. So I'm happy and excited that I've done it, because my husband is a half marathoner. And so, I have to compete just a little bit with them, The hard thing for me is I have asthma. And I even though I'm using an inhaler before I start my runs, I'm noticing I'm having a hard time keeping my running up. So I'm having to do sometimes more walking than I want to. Do you have any suggestions for somebody with asthma, and how I can make my running better? But like you said, don't worry about the pace time, but just complete it. But I would like to complete me running, and not just, having to say.
Are you using an inhaler of any sort, Donna?
Yes, I have 2 inhalers. I have a Proventil, which is my normal, and then I have I can't think of the other one's called. Albuterol is my regular one. Proventil is my emergency one. And I do take that with me on my run. So about halfway through my run, I'm noticing I'm having to use it in order to be able to breathe, in order to be able to keep going.
Yeah.
So I didn't have asthma years ago. I've only had asthma for about 20 years. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do it, but my
Yeah, so-
goal, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
My goal is to, I did run the 10 miler the year that Joan Benoit Samuelson ran it. And I unfortunately was disqualified because I was like 2 minutes over the time limit. And so part of my goal is for 2022 is to go back and run the 10 miler again and complete it and, qualified. So I got, this whole year now to train and to be ready to go. So that's what I'm doing.
But why aren't you talking about 2021? Do you not think you can get there? The 10 miler? You just think about next year as a real race when it's in a big race again?
I think that I can do it because but I guess what yes and no. Yes, I think I can do the 10 miler if I didn't have asthma. No, because I don't know enough about running 10 miles to say, okay, I need to use my inhaler on this mile to be able to complete it. Yeah. And I think that's what I'm concerned about is, okay, so if by the end of 2021, my thought is if you can't do 10 miles by the end of 2021, don't run it in 22 because you'll never finish. So I can think, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure with my asthma if I can do it, to be honest.
I would consult with your doctor, number one, but I would use that inhaler when you feel like you're needing it.
Okay.
I'm maybe making it sound too simple. And the other thing is I would slow down as much as you possibly can when you do start to feel like your breathing is getting restricted.
Okay.
So you may, even though you think you're going very slow, you may not be going slow enough to where you're currently at. But I think you should be able to do that this year. Are you in program 1 or 2, Donna?
In 1.
In 1. How did the 2 miles go yesterday?
Unfortunately, I had to walk it.
You did? Because of the asthma?
2 reasons. 1, because of the asthma, and 2, because I just popped my right hip out, and I can't get to the chiropractor till Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, got it.
Trying to pound on it isn't cool, but I did do the 2 mile. It just was a long 2 miles. So I did it in about 45 minutes, but I did complete it. So
okay, all right, yes, all right. So maybe you and I can talk sometime alone about this and maybe give you some more tips because I'm just being sensitive about the time here because we got another group coming on at 3:30. But I love a challenge like this and. But I do think a consultation with your doctor, maybe shifting gears with the medication levels, and they would be better to give you advice on how often you should be, using it. So,
all right.
But that's good stuff. Heather.
Yes. Hi. So I'm sorry. What do we say?
Well, just. Maybe in this short period of time, we're talking about goals, talking about a positive takeaway in 2020, but physically, but maybe what your thoughts are with the goal. Are you in 1 or 2, Heather?
I'm in 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like I said, I did do the 3 miles yesterday and it felt good. But I'm so slow. And I'm really listening to your advice to be able to talk while I'm running, right? So yes. Because before that, I wasn't doing that. And I'd get really out of breath and have to walk a little bit and then run some more. So I'm not doing that anymore. But now I'm going like a 12:30 mile, which is
not that slow. Well, you consider that slow,
really?
but other people would be wagging their finger at you. What you missed because you came on a little late is that the whole first part of the conversation today, I was telling you guys at 1 and 2, I don't want you to be thinking about pace. I want you to teach yourself to be able to run so you're not breathing heavy. That's by far the biggest goal. You will get faster. You say you're not getting any faster, but it's only been a few weeks. I much prefer you to get the distance in and not having to stop and walk and not breathing heavy than you saying, I've got to get faster. So
Okay.
12:30 pace is not, I mean, sure, compared to somebody that runs 9-minute pace, it's slow, but for where you're at currently, you should be looking more at, can I complete this without stopping and walking? I love to hear the fact that you're not breathing heavy anymore. So
Yeah, and also I read a book called Breath, and it talks about not breathing through your mouth. So I've started just breathing in and out through my nose. Is that something you recommend?
well, yes, I do. I just think that if you're running slow enough at the pace you're supposed to be, your breathing is going to be very natural. You're not going to be having to think about that, about breathing
Okay.
through your mouth or breathing through your nose. This is again the whole thing with the social end is if you had a training partner, you'd be talking, so you wouldn't be. And when you're talking, that would give you that clue. Like I was running with a buddy the other day, and I started to get out of breath. I was forcing my words, and I said, "We need to slow down." And I don't know if we were going I don't have a gauge on my watch to tell me if I'm going any faster, but I know for that day, I was tired and we were going too fast. So we slowed down,
Okay.
comfortable run. It's really
Okay.
coming to peace with effort and not struggling with pace.
Okay. That's good to hear. Thank
Yeah.
you. Other than that,
So,
I feel great. So,
good.
yeah.
And just like I said, you missed it earlier. The big goals of 1 and 2 are to get you to 10 miles without having to stop and walk. And if you do have to stop and walk, it's no big deal, but trying to slowly teach you to get there.
Okay. Thank you.
So I don't know, Leah, does this transfer over right away to the next group, or do we have to?
No, I'll have to stop it and then start the next one. So I'm sure we'll have a bunch of people in the waiting room for the next meeting. So
Let's just keep them waiting there for a second.
Okay.
So we can get Mindy, I wonder if Mindy can come on to the other meeting. That way we can.
yeah, I think she left already.
Okay. So you guys, I'll leave you with this, that it's okay to get frustrated, but at the same time, don't fight it. You just give into this notion of effort. Like I keep pounding it. And like Kathy said, working on your core, very important. If you want extra credit, if you want to do a suggested reading, extra credit reading, like the professor would have you, it's working on your core, because the core is going to keep you upright, the core work. And the more you sit down, let me see if I can get it a little clearer. The more you sit down and you're running, the greater the chance you're going to have hamstring, hip flexor, iliotibial band, calf issues, because you're making your legs work too. You want your upper body to be doing the work. And I know that sounds silly with running, but you want your upper body to be doing the work. So, and Leah's put a bunch of videos. I know we've recorded, you talked about Fleet Feet, but Leah and I have spent a lot of time recording some videos. They're not, we just wanted to make them quicker. So, because the impression I got from people is they're not going to sit and watch things for 6 or 8 minutes. So, but you obviously did, Kathy, which is great. But one of the sneakiest places in our lives that you can do all the core work in the world, but if you don't sit properly, it's all going to waste. So we actually have a video on proper sitting posture, because that's, talk about what's going on in the pandemic. What are we doing right now? We're sitting. So
Where are the videos?
I thought, Leah, didn't you post those?
If you check your email, and I'll resend it, but it's if you look at the email that has all the emails that have been sent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a link to videos in there.
We did a bunch of them. We did.
Yeah.
I mean, early in the pandemic, they're about shoes, they're about sitting, they're about plantar fasciitis, about breathing. So.
Yeah, well, I joined the program late, so I missed some of the first emails. So yeah, I need to go back and look at those.
Yeah, like I think yesterday when I sent out the email about this, I included all the previous messages. So it's just there's a lot of information in there.
It's Beverly. It's riveting reading. You should go back.
Well, I thought I'd read all of it, but I didn't see the video, so I'll go back.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm missing the interactions like this so much, but we have, like I said yesterday, we broke our record. We had 9 people, and we broke them into 3 groups. And if you want to venture out, it feels so incredibly safe. They all wear their masks. We're outside. And I noticed that the 2 of the groups this is their 3rd week together, and they were chattering away. Like, they say, how was your week? How are you doing? And so it's reminding me of the old days. But anyway, okay. Well, you guys know how to get in touch with me, and thanks for making me feel, Leah and I both, worthwhile doing this, because, I mean, taking up some of our Sunday afternoons. So
Yeah,
glad some
thank you
folks
so
showed.
much. This is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Have a good week.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.